to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my DC action figure collection. Now this time we will be taking a look at Ocean Master from the Page Puncher's Aquaman Wave. Now this is the final figure. I have done Aquaman, Aqualad, and Black Manta. So now we will finally take a look at Orm. Now this is actually a separate line from the DC Multiverse. This is the Page Puncher's line, released under the banner of DC Direct, but is still a McFarlane release. And I wanted to get this one out of the way because I will be moving on to the next wave of DC Direct Page Punchers. Now, interestingly enough, we did already receive a version of Ocean Master, but it was more a comic book style version. This one as well is a comic book style, but is more of a stylized version. Looks pretty interesting, and I did go ahead and do some paint modifications, so we'll check that out towards the end of the review. Now he does look pretty ruthless in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with the standard DC McFarlane black stand. Now of course, these are not really needed. They also do come with the DC Multiverse, but they are appreciated. He also comes with his data file card. On the front, you do have the image from the comic cover of this figure. Pretty interesting. Now there are different versions of Ocean Master. You could go out through the comics, even movie versions, even animated versions. So pretty interesting version of Orm. Now on the back you do have some information. Now he also comes with the comic book. Now I will not be opening this one, but interestingly enough, if you look inside, which you can do in the Aquaman version, there is actually no images of him in this costume. So they basically took only the cover as a reference to execute this figure. But inside, Orm does appear, but he is sort of in his classic vintage costume. So pretty interesting, but we'll add these to the collection. Now he does come with some accessories. He comes with two alternate sort of gesturing, grasping, evil hands. These are perfect for a villain with ulterior motives or a sort of tyrant of the sea. Gives him some sort of character. Hold on to those. He also comes with his trident. Now this trident has tons of nice sculpt work on it. Has a little bit of a darker color of gold, but has a lot of cool detail. You do have a part that is sort of like the gripping handle part of it, a point down at the bottom, and some sort of chains draped over the tip of it. So pretty interesting. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at the actual figure. Now first impressions, just by looking at this guy, taking a glance at him, you can see that there are tons of textures, tons of sculpt work on him, all original sculpt. You do have variations of texture, some sort of beaded chainmail texture, and down to some sort of algae growth looking texture. So you get a lot of variations of sculpt in here. That goes also into the armor, which has a sort of oceanic, feel to it. So really loving that. And as I said before, this is a certain take on Ocean Master. So all in all, really nice figure, pretty elegant looking Atlantean armor and costume. Let's take a look at the head sculpt. Beautiful sculpt work here. He has that sort of crab-like helmet armor that we've really come to recognize as Ocean Master's armor. Has a really nice fin, sort of like bony fish fin head crest, which is rather nice. Sculpt work. Oh, you got those deep red eyes. A little bit weird on the mouth. I don't really remember him having like sort of sharpened teeth, like shark teeth, but they kind of do peek out there in the mouth. But I will give them one thing: it is a creepy little detail to give them a little bit more of a sinister feel. All in all, really immaculate head sculpt. Let's check out the articulation. He does look down really well, giving him a sort of authoritarian pose. Can also look up really well. Nice range. You got right to left, and of course you can tilt his head for some attitude. Standard articulation we've come to look for from McFarlane. Going down, he does have that sort of different style of emblem on his chest. It is sculpted out and painted in a sort of dark red color. And of course more sculpt work and trenching work here on the upper chest, down to that Atlantean belt and thigh guards. Pretty nice. Let's take a look at the waist articulation. You do have side to side. Really smooth articulation. You have that full tilt-a-whirl at the waist, giving you a lot of range and flexibility. You do have a lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel, so you can twist them, get them in some cool action poses. He does have a crunch. Surprisingly, it's better than normal. You can actually see it here where the upper chest collapses over the abdomen part and it almost touches the belt. Pretty generous waist crunch. And of course he could lean back, which is never a problem for McFarlane figures, and that could get him into some swimming poses. Let's take a look at the shoulders. Now you do have these shoulder pauldrons that have a nice detailed sculpt work on them, but they do move out of the way. So you got that sort of socket bushing McFarlane shoulder joint that gives you a lot of movement and range. You got some up and down and front to back. You got a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, look really clean and they don't break up the sculpt at all. And then, like I said, going from those sort of crab armored shoulder pauldrons down into the textured arms and into the gauntlets that are really nicely sculpted and accented. Then you go into some gripping hands. Now he does have articulation with the hinge and swivel, 4 ways of articulation. And you can pop this hand off easily and grab the gesturing evil hand and pop that in as well. Which allows you to give them some, life and character, some evil poses. And of course on the other side you have the same thing with that grasping hand. Pretty nice. Get them quite easily into a T-pose. Not more than that. Now you do have the shoulder pauldrons and they do move, so you can lift his arms above his head pretty easily. Awesome range and articulation, and actually pretty smooth articulation. Not a lot of resistance or overly tight joints or overly loose joints. It's pretty much almost perfect movement and range. Let's go down to the thighs. Let's check out his thigh swivel. He does have a nice swivel there at the hips. I'm still always going to focus on the thigh swivel because it seems to me people still do not get it or understand it. The whole rubber trunks and the thigh swivel make for ultimate articulation and posing, which we'll look at. But that does mean that you could move his boot from side to side without having a thigh cut to break up the sculpt on the thigh there, and you still get movement. Now I'm going to do this so you can see it completely, which is kicking up, because normally they'll say that he can only kick up this far, but as you can see, I'll show it on camera where you can actually kick up super high. And of course that is because the rubber trunks move out of the way. So when you kick back as well, I'll actually show it here, the trunks actually bend out of the way. And don't be afraid, because when you go back to the original position, turn them around and they actually go back to their original shape. So that's why they are designed like this, to get added range and movement in the legs and the hips. Go back down to the leg, you can pop out his leg and give him that sweet McFarlane hip swivel. He does have double jointed knees, which look okay. Straighten them out. You have up and down at the ankle, right to left, a smooth rocker, and toe articulation. Now before we go, let's take a complete look at the lower body. Tons of texture. I love this sort of amoeba kind of algae growth tangle sort of texture on the trunks and on the legs. Gives it a sort of living, moving feel and texture. Down into the knees, they all have the texture. It looks really good. And then you got the armor on the shins, the shin armor, nicely sculpted. Now this gold is actually a little bit bright under the lights, but when you look at it in normal lighting, it has like a dingy kind of darkish tone to it. So I am going to repaint this in a high gloss sort of chrome gold. But the way the ankle joints are sculpted out, it gives it a nice clean line with still, you know, movement and a completely unbroken up feel to the sculpture. Taking a look at him from the bottom, no tread, but he does have some identifying marks. Moving up the back, more awesome sculpt work. You got those fins on the back, but they're more of a bony sort of fish fin design. And then moving up the back, look at the knee hinges. They actually also have that same texture to match up with the lower legs. Up into the back, pretty nice sculpt work, sort of shellfish style armor on the back there. And then looking at them from the back, you got the hinges that have a sort of cutout where you could get more range backwards. And then of course the cape. Now the cape is soft, you can crunch it up. And it also has a lot of cool texture and little hidden ridges that actually give it some form of living, you know, sort of feel to it. Pretty nice. So all in all, really happy with this guy. He looks cool. It's just another version of Orm that you can add to your collection or use with different versions of Aquaman. I wouldn't mind using this one with the original released Aquaman, or even the Flashpoint Aquaman, or even the Aquaman that comes in this wave. Now I did go ahead and do some work with this guy. First of all, with the trident, I went ahead and gave it a shinier gold finish, which is more of a reflective gold. And I even added a little red to like a sort of, it looked kind of like a gem to me, but I just wanted to give it some contrast since it's like all gold and there's no color. So I gave it that little bit of red, sort of bright red. And then the figure, I completely took them apart, redid all of the gold in that same sort of chrome gold color, which really gives them a more high sort of top shelf feel. It gives them a little bit of more of a royal feel with that high gloss gold, not that dingy. You can put images right next to each other and you can see what I mean about the difference of the original sort of darkened gold and to this like shiny gold. I also wanted to add a little bit of detail on him, so I painted the eyes a little bit brighter of a red, and then these like sort of clasps for the cape, they're actually look like kind of like barnacles that are holding down his cape, and on the cover they actually have a little red accents in them, so I added that. And then of course I painted the back of the cape with a little bit of more of a red tone, so now you have that sort of burgundy underneath and then the red. It's kind of a satin finish on the outside. Now adding the two pieces together, the trident with the figure actually gives you a really nice complete figure. Now this guy is highly posable. You can get him in some crouching, attacking poses. Looks good. Like if you're a big Ocean Master fan or Orm fan, which I know there's probably not a lot, but there could be some out there, this is a beautiful piece to, you know, have on your shelf or have by himself, just, you know, displayed on a nice display. Maybe you could make like a little diorama of the seafloor. But for what he is, for all intents and purposes, this is an awesome, awesome figure. Just looking at him in hand now, really took him up a notch, giving him that little repaint. I really love the back of the helmet, the way it has all that little detail in the back of the neck, giving him a, like I said, a sort of crab-like feel, sort of a crustacean feel. So pretty cool. Now I really only want to put him up next to the other version of Orm that we do have here. That is more based off of the first Aquaman Endless Winter figure. He has his own color, which is more silver and purple. I wanted to add a little purple wash to this one just to give him some color pop, which I may still do. It's not too late. I can always do that. I just feel like it might, you know, give it an even more like a fancy feel to add a little bit of purple in there. They're basically about the same height. And as I said before, now you have two choices of Ocean Master. You could go with a more simple comic version, not so much sculpt work, sort of simple Atlantean armor, or you can go with the more intricate, beautiful sculpt work of this Page Puncher's Ocean Master. But anyways, guys, awesome figure. He's gonna look awesome up on the shelf, either by himself or with the rest of this wave. You guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.